Very good morning to all of you. Let me welcome you all for this civics class. So in this video, we are going to learn about the lesson, the parliament. So you know very well, the parliament plays a very important role in the democracy of India. Okay. So the learning objectives of the lesson is to learn about the importance of people's participation in decision making. Okay. And the second one, so we are going to explore, we are going to understand the role of Parliament in India's democratic system. And the last one is the application. We are going to apply our learning to understand how the Parliament enables citizens to participate in the decision making and monitor the government. So these are all the three important things we are going to learn in this lesson. So first let's discuss why should people participate in decision making. Okay, what is the importance of people participation in the process of decision making? And second one, is there any difference in the government if the government is not elected by the people? So first of all, let me explain you the importance of election. Okay, you know very well, as a citizen we could select our representative only by the election. Okay, so the basic requirement to participate in the election is the age limit. So we have to be at least 18 years old. So from 18 years old only, a citizen of the country, they could participate in the process of election. So by the election only, we could select our representatives to the parliament and even to the state legislative assembly and even to the local government. Okay, so this is the basic thing you know very well. So now let me explain you what is the purpose of electing representatives to the parliament. So every people, we cannot give our opinion directly to the parliament. So and the person who is elected by the people, he is the representative of the people's voice. Okay, whenever the process of decision is going on, so at the time he could give the opinion and the comments and even the demand of the peoples to the parliament directly. This is one of the advantage of the democratic system. So as a government, it should answer the questions of the people. Okay, but if the government is not a democratic one, the two things might happen. One is the government is not answerable to the questions of the people, and one more thing, so sometimes the government may not functions for the concern of the people, which means the welfare of the people. So this might happen if the government is not a democratic one. So now let's discuss about how we Indians were under the British colonization in those days. You know very well, over 200 years. Okay, so about 200 years the Indians were ruled by the British at that time. So we didn't have our freedom. Okay, we didn't have any rights to participate in the decision making of the government. And one more thing, the people, we were exploited completely by the British government. You know very well. So at that time, so then people, they realized the importance of independence, and we have started our India independent movement by some leaders also. And one more thing, in order to get the complete freedom, so Indian leaders, they decided to interfere in the legislature. So for that, so they demanded to be elected in the legislature. As a result of that only, Indian National Congress, a political party which was started in the year 1885, and slowly we started to enter in the legislature and in order to voice against the injustice of the British. And so we could able to raise our question and we could able to give our opinion even in the budgets. So this was happened in the earlier stage. So in the year 1909, the British, it started or it implemented an act. The name of the act is Government of India Act, otherwise which is known as the Minto-Morley reforms. Okay, so that act allowed the Indian representatives to the Legislative Council. But the problem is, in the election process, only a limited peoples were given the right to vote. So the voting rights was not given to all the adult population in India at that time. So that moment made the leaders to realize, Okay, so all walks of people, okay, all walks of people means all people in the country, they should have their voting rights. So then only they could elect their representative, and that representative they could play a vital role in the decision making process. And this was implemented when we got our independence and when we framed our constitution. Okay, and at that time, so as a result, our Indian constitution, it granted the citizens the rights to vote based on the principle of universal adult franchise. So just to underline the word universal adult franchise, which means that all adults in the country have the right to vote. So thus we got our voting rights in Indian constitution. Let's move to the next point. The next point is, how is the government formed? Okay, you know very well. So the government is two. One is the state government and another one is the central government. So we elect the members to the state government are known as the MLAs, the members of state legislative assembly. Okay, the next one, we select or we elect some members to the parliament. They are known as the MPs, members of parliament. Okay, and both people also elected by the same method. Okay, both people of MPs as well as MLAs are elected by the people in a direct method. The country, you know very well, it's a democratic country. The central idea of a democracy is that the citizens are the most important persons. So without the trust of the people, a democratic country cannot function effectively. Okay, so what is the point I want to tell you? So the very important, according to the democracy, so who is very important? What is very important? The citizens are the most important persons. And one more thing, so without the trust of the people, okay, so the liability is very important. Okay, without the trust of the people, the government, especially a democratic government, it cannot function effectively. This is the point I want to tell you. And me explain you about how the political party it forms the government. Okay, so you know very well, there are numerous political parties, they are contesting in the election. So from that, which party becomes the majority, okay, which secure the majority seats in the Lok Sabha election, so it can form the government. The representatives are elected by the election only. The group of representatives who gets the maximum number of votes form the government. Do you have any doubt in this? So the party who gets majority, okay, the maximum number of votes, okay, they can form the government. And the leader of the majority party and who becomes the prime minister. Okay, thus the government is formed after the election, after the Lok Sabha election. I want to tell you one more point. All members of parliament as the representative of the people, we know very well. So the members in the parliament are elected by the people. They are the representatives of the people. So they could control and guide the government on behalf of the people. So that's why we are telling that the people, we can, what is that? We can control the government through their elected representatives. Okay, explain you what is the role of the parliament. Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you one information. Our parliament building is known as Sansad Bhavan, and so that is described as, okay, that is considered as the symbol of faith. Okay, you know very well. So one of the principles of our democracy is faith. Okay, and this is the first point. And the second point I want to tell about these sessions. Okay, so usually there are 3 sessions held in our parliament. The first one is the budget session. Okay, the first session is the budget session from the month January to May. So it will be held. The second session is the monsoon session. So the monsoon session is from July to September. The third session is winter session. So it's from November to December. So there are 3 sessions. In the session, usually the representatives of the areas, okay, the representatives of the constituencies, they tries to express the opinion of the people, the concerns of the people. And another one, so in this session, mostly the issues which affect all over India. So that type of issues are clearly analyzed in these sessions. So now let's discuss about the Lok Sabha election. Okay, so Lok Sabha election is held once 5 years. And another one point I want to tell about the constituencies. So the entire India is divided into 543 constituencies. In the constituencies, the elections are usually held. So as a result of that, okay, from each constituencies, each member is selected, okay, based on the majority votes, and he will be sent to the parliament as a member of parliament, means MP. Is it clear? And one more thing, so if a person he wanted to contest in the election, he should belongs to at least a political party. So this is the basic requirement to contest in the election. So now let me explain you the very important thing. Okay, so all MPs, you know very well, all the members of the parliament, they constitute the parliament. Okay, and they performs the three major functions. The first one is selection of the national government. National government means central government. Okay, so first function is selection of the national government. The second function is control the government, okay, and the third point is legislation. Legislation means law making. So this is we are going to learn now. The first point is selection of the national government. So now let me explain you the selection of the national government. You know very well. So Indian Parliament, okay, the Parliament of India is composed of three important factors. First one is the President, Indian President, and second one is upper house, and third one is lower house. Okay, upper house is known as the Rajya Sabha and the lower house is known as the Lok Sabha. So now let me begin, okay, the selection and the number of seats about the Lok Sabha. Now let's discuss about the Lok Sabha in an elaborate manner. So you know very well who forms the government, who forms the national government. The answer is the majority party, okay, the political party with the majority seats in the Lok Sabha election can form the national government. And the next point is how many seats are there. Okay, the total number of seats in the Lok Sabha is 545, out of which 543 members are elected in the Lok Sabha election, whereas the so now let me tell you how the parties form the government. Okay, the first thing you know very well, the political party, it should secure at least half of the seats in the Lok Sabha election. For example, minimum 272 seats must be secured by the party which is going to form the government. Okay, so minimum is the 272, so maximum it is not a problem. But so what is the practical situation here? But most of the time it is too difficult to the single party to form the government. So at the time the government is the coalition government. So the coalition government, which means political parties which have common concerns. So let me repeat again. So different political parties which have common concerns come together to form the government. So that type of government is only known as the coalition government. In Tamil we used to say Kootani. Okay, in Tamil. So this is the term we used to mention the coalition government. Okay. Tell you what is the opposition party. The one is you know very well, one is the ruling party and the second one is the opposition. So except the ruling party, remaining all the parties, all the political parties, they form the opposition only. But in among them, so which party secured 10% of the total seats in Lok Sabha election is known as the opposition party. Now let me explain you one of the very important wing of the government. There are three important wings. The first one is legislature. Legislature you know very well, it's a law making body. The second one, judiciary. Judiciary you know very well, about the justice. And third one is the executives. So let me explain you what is executive. Executive is a group of people who work together for the effective implementation of the laws made by the parliament. Okay, so the law making body is the parliament, and that laws are implemented by certain group of people. Okay, so that peoples are known as the executives. So you know very well the prime minister is the head of the executive, and he is the leader of the government, the head of the government. And you know very well, so the prime minister is the leader of the majority party in the Lok Sabha election. So this is the basic thing we have to know first of all. And afterwards he appoints some ministers, okay, some minister from his majority party. Okay, so that minister are allocated to some departments. For example, education minister, for example, health minister, for example, finance minister. So those ministers are elected from the majority party by the prime minister. So this is the point, you have to keep it in your mind. Move to the next house. Okay, the next house you know very well, it's upper house. Upper house is known as Rajya Sabha and Council of States, because it's Rajya Sabha is the representation of the states of India in the parliament. So this is the representation of the state, whereas Lok Sabha is the, what is that, this council of people. This is the council of states. Okay, and this is the first thing you have to know. And one more thing, Rajya Sabha members are not directly elected by the people. So their election method is indirect election, because so the members of Rajya Sabha are elected by the members of Legislative Assembly, which means MLAs. Very important point. So the total number of Rajya Sabha is 245, but in the 245, 233, okay, 233 members are only elected by the state legislative assembly. Okay, state legislative assembly means by the MLAs, okay, MLAs of various states, whereas the 12 peoples are nominated by, they are not elected, they are nominated by the president. But that 12 people, they belongs to the different department like education, science, okay, service, okay, so like even arts. So like these 12 peoples, they are the expert in a certain areas. So this is about the Rajya Sabha. Next comparison between the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. So here Rajya Sabha, you know very well, the election of the Rajya Sabha is conducts once a 6 years, whereas Lok Sabha election held once a 5 years. And one more thing here, Rajya Sabha members, they have the retirement. Okay, once 2 years, 1/3 of the people of the Rajya Sabha, so they have the retirement. So that place is replaced by another one, and this is the permanent house. So Rajya Sabha is the permanent house. So this is the point you have to know. To the second function of the parliament, the second function is to control the government. So how the members of the parliament controls the government? So this is the thing you have to know. So generally you know very well the sessions of the parliament. Okay, usually the session of the parliament held 3 times a year. You know very well, the first one is the budget session, second one is the monsoon session, and third one is the winter session. Okay, every session it begins with some questioning hours. Some times are allocated to ask the question to the particular minister. Okay, so now let me tell you the importance of raising question in the questioning hours. Okay, so there are 2 benefits are there. So one is the government, it should be aware of the questions. Okay, so usually the MPs, they used to raise the question about the policies, programs, whatever. Okay, the second point, so the government, it could come to know about the public opinions through their representatives in the parliament, for example by the MPs. So these are all the 2 advantages. And let me move to the next one. The next point is about opposition parties. Okay, you know very well, so this opposition party, they helps in a healthy functioning of the democracy. If the So the major function of the opposition party is to make aware the people about the policies and the programs of the government. Okay, and what is that? So they mostly point out the flaws. They try to criticize the government. Okay, so with the help of the opposition party, the people, they could understand, okay, the plus and minus of the government. Okay, this is the one of the very important function of the opposition party. And let me move to the next point. So the approval of the parliament, okay, so let me talk about parliament. Approval of the parliament is a very important for the government in all the decisions related to the financial matters. Repeat again, so the decision related to the financial matter of the government should be approved by the parliament. So this is the last point, okay. So now let me explain the major function of, okay, very important function of parliament. So the very important function of the parliament is law making, you know very well. And the next one, so parliament is the highest law making body of India. So this is the point you have to know. And the third point, you know very well, so law making process which was initiated, okay, so the law making is initiated in the form of a bill. So you must know the difference between what is bill and what is law. Okay, so every law is initiated in the form of bill only. So when it is accepted by, when the bill is approved by both houses, okay, Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, and by president, then only the bill is declared as the law. So this is the major difference between the bill and the law. Okay, and one more thing, so once the bill has been enacted into law, it is called an act. So the three things you have to understand, one is the bill, and another one is the law, and the third one is the act. Okay, so when the bill has been enacted into law, it is known as the act. So here they have given one example to differentiate what is the act and what is bill. Okay, so for example, the right of children to free and compulsory education of 2009. So when the act was implemented in 2009, what is the name of the act? The Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act. Okay, so which was first introduced as a bill in the year 2005. Now let me discuss about the point regarding some seats are reserved in parliament for the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. Okay, how it was started. So let me explain the situation. So when our Indian constitution was being made, so at the time our lawmakers, they realized that so the representative democracy cannot be a egalitarian society unless the marginalized and underprivileged section of the society are adequately represented in the decision making process. So this is the word which is given in your book. So let me explain you. So the law making process was happening at the time, our leaders, okay, at the time the lawmakers, they realized that if we want to give a complete equal democratic country, so the people from marginalized and underprivileged, they should participate in the decision making process. So that's why in the parliament, so the seats are allotted to the SC and the ST communities. And one more advantage is from that, okay, so if the MP is elected from the constituency, from their community, so automatically he could know the problems which are faced by the people and it could be put forward in the discussion, and that can be rectified in the future days. So this is the basic intention of the reservation of the seats in the parliament for the ST and the SC community people. Okay, so now let me move to the reservation of seats for women in parliament. Okay, you know very well, some seats are allocated for the women candidates in the parliament, but even in the 60 years ago, okay, only 4% of seats were filled by women. So women in the parliament was only just 4%. But in nowadays that the percentage level has been increased. Okay, so the percentage is nowadays 11%, from 4 to 11. But anyhow, okay, this participation is not as equal as men. Okay, even the 50% of the participation also was not done by the women. So this is one of the suggestion which is given in your book. And now let's reach the last point. So the last point is about, even though the country India is a democratic country, but still we have some inequalities. Anyhow, so we have got the freedom to express, okay, freedom of expression. So with the help of the freedom of expression, so we could raise some critical questions and even some unresolved questions, and we can demand the answer for those questions. So this situation shows that how our country India is in the healthy functioning democratic one. Okay, so let me conclude the lesson right now. So far we have learned about the importance of the parliament. Okay, so parliament plays a very important role in the very good functioning of the country. Okay, so let me continue in the next class. Thank you so much.